are both sides ready for compromise?
So what we know so far is we just heard from the U.S. Trade Representative's office, and Robert Lighthizer and his counterpart Leo He spoke by phone today. And right now they're really just at the stage of agreeing about what the two leaders will actually talk about during their meeting, the scope of their meeting. What we do know from the U.S. side is that there's really no expectation that Trump and Xi are going to come up with a deal by the end of their meeting together, their summit at the G20. But what they will probably decide on is a path forward. And if they don't, then we're in real trouble.
Sarah, remember last year when the president lifted a ban on ZTE because of Xi Jinping's request? Could there be a similar move this time around?
There seems to be a lot of similarities with this meeting and of course, the one that took place in December between Trump and Xi, the last time they met when they agreed on a temporary truce to their tariff war. Of course, those talks have broken down now, and here we find ourselves meeting again. And at this time now, we see another major Chinese telecoms company, Huawei, hit by sanctions, and Trump musing that he could maybe go easier on Huawei as part of a trade deal. You know, we hear from his officials who are part of the talks, that are directly part of the negotiations, who say they're two separate tracks. Huawei is a Justice Department issue, is a issue of, you know, it being added to an entity list. That means U.S. suppliers can't sell to it. And the trade negotiations are something entirely separate. But Trump, of course, has conflated those two issues. And so we'll have to see if President Xi asks for some reprieve for Huawei during those talks and whether Trump grants it.
Sarah, in terms of Huawei, is the genie out of the bottle in some regards, because it's grown a bit beyond the U.S. borders? Many of the Five Eyes alliance now have measures in place against Huawei. Some members of Congress may not be so keen on concessions when it comes to Huawei. So how can President Trump climb down from that pretty high rhetorical position that he built?
Absolutely. I mean, the issue of Huawei being a security threat has been on the minds, as you said, of Congress people, of a lot of security watchers here in Washington for a long time. And so if Trump does, of course, back down from some of these restrictions on Huawei, he could get a lot of pushback from people in his own Republican Party, from other lawmakers. And so, you know, he is in a bit of a tight spot right now. I think these are longstanding concerns against Huawei, you know, allegations like they spy on America, or that if we allow them to sort of invest in our infrastructure here in the States, it could be compromised. These are longstanding concerns, and ones the Defense Department and the military brought up. And there's other restrictions on Huawei selling, for instance, to government. And so it would be hard to imagine how Trump could justify it. But then again, we saw him, you know, back down from the ZTE sanctions last year in exchange for them, you know, shaking up their management and agreeing to a bit more monitoring from the U.S. side and to pay a big fine. So there is a precedent for backing down, of course.